So let's talk a little bit about avoiding disasters and how to recover from one if it does happen. Let's talk about the kind of disasters we're trying to avoid. It seems that you guys get hit a lot with what happens if there's a loss of internet. It seems that the restaurant owners are really concerned about this and not quite sure what's going to happen, thinking that maybe the Aldelo Express product is internet dependent. And that's just not the case. We are really internet independent with regard to most everything around our system. But nonetheless, they're concerned about processing. But how is the loss of internet going to affect that part of their business? And then the batching, they're concerned about getting their money, and then they should be. And we can understand they're questioning about that and why they're interested in what happens when there's a loss of internet. How are they going to batch? And of course, there's the cloud back office portion where they're concerned about how they're going to change prices, do the reports, run an end of day. Those simple things that are where you have a connection to the cloud that is necessary to make those things happen. And then, of course, there's overall downtime, meaning that is a loss of internet or even a loss of power. How does that affect their system? As many of you guys know, I live in Florida, which is the lightning capital of the world. We get more strikes than anybody. In fact, the University of Florida has a lightning test site where they actually erect towers to try to attract lightning so they can study it. So power outages and surges are a big deal for us here in Florida and across the country. We have a lot of storms that pass through here. And when you think of storms in Florida, you're thinking hurricanes, but we also have a lot of other type thunderstorms, tornadoes, other types of weather problems that plague all across the country. If you're in the Texas, Oklahoma tornado belt, you know that there is a tornado season that you have to be aware of. There's nor'easters up in the Northeast, Midwest snowstorms and blizzards. There's also in the West, you're going to get uh, firestorms. So there's storms all over the country that can affect the power and the surges there. We also experience a lot of brownouts and even blackouts. But something you may not think about very often is low power. That is something where your lights dim a little bit and run with a little bit less of a wattage than they are supposed to. That is actually devastating for electrical equipment to be run on a low power scenario. And of course, we've already talked about the lightning strikes that plague everyone. So let's now get into another type of disaster that does plague a lot of businesses, and that's cybersecurity. While the restaurant owner may be concerned about loss of internet, what they should be also concerned with is unauthorized uses of their equipment. We're talking about tablet point of sale. A tablet is traditionally used for a personal device, for fun, for games, for listening to music, watching YouTube. Well, that also breeds the unauthorized uses can then lead to spyware, where people go to these websites to play these games. Well, while they're playing, adware and spyware and malware are all being downloaded onto the terminal that then causes problems ongoing. Well, you need to be able to secure those systems so that doesn't happen. And then there's also the hacks, the situation where an outside entity is trying to gain access to the point of sale system for a recovery or stealing of information, money, or even the credit card numbers. So we're doing our part at Aldelo. We just completed an advanced security audit. This is where we pay an outside auditing firm to come in and look at our procedures, look at our software, look at our processing, to look at every aspect of our business to determine just how secure our company is. So we're happy to report that we not only passed this audit, that we were able to show where we never store credit card numbers. That's a big deal. We do not ever store a credit card number. We also have multiple layers of security, even in places where the auditors looked and said, we have security in areas that we don't really need or required to have security, that we've gone above and beyond what is required as far as security goes. And one of those areas is encryption. We do encryption changes to our encryption algorithms every few seconds. So typically if you run a transaction, it's going to be encrypted, but the next transaction will have a different encryption. So you can't even count on the same encryption algorithm two times in a row. So we are very secure in our software. What we need from you is that you have to secure the iPad. In this case, it's not hard to do. It's probably not something that you think about doing. The settings tab is where you go. Then you go to the accessibility area and you turn something on called guided access. It's kind of a code word. And what it amounts to is once you start the Aldelo Express point of sale, the the user cannot get out of that software without the owner's secure password. So the cashiers, the servers, nobody can go and play games. They cannot listen to their music. They cannot do anything that's not authorized if you have guided access turned on. In some of the older iPads, it literally just hides the home button. They cannot get out of it. So this is something that we ask that you do to enable the cybersecurity when you're doing an install. Loss of power is the most common source for loss of the internet. And the way that happens is a power flicker. Something goes off and back on. Just that 1 second flicker of power will cause the modem and the router to reset. And in some cases, that's a minute or two that the internet is lost to the restaurant just because of a power flicker. Of course, a power loss is even more catastrophic in that everything is down in the restaurant. But the only thing that's going to work is going to be the iPad based upon its battery. But if you have a power loss, that is something that's critical and is going to cause problems if you're not prepared. So let's see how you can avoid that. And the simplest thing is an uninterrupted power supply. It's a very inexpensive solution to this problem. Every device in the restaurant that is on your point of sale system should have an UPS on that system, on that device. This will give you consistent power really for multiple devices. They come in different sizes. I called the manufacturer of this unit, which is APC. It is the unit that I used when I was in the field here in Florida. This is what we put on every system, every device, every system. There was no arguments. There was no discussion. There was no option. If you don't want the UPS, you're not getting our software. You're not getting our solution. It was that definitive. I have seen these devices literally melt from a lightning strike, but the point of sale stuff was protected and kept safe. So it does handle huge surge suppression. But you'll also notice if you ever put a meter on the outlets, if you are at the bar and you have your point of sale device plugged into the same circuit as the blender, when they hit that blender, it sends all manner of noise across the network, across the electrical lines, and it will then just fry the hardware if you don't have a surge suppression on the system. They are so confident that APC will put a insurance policy that will protect you up to $75,000 in connected equipment. Like I said, I've seen these devices melt and the hardware that's plugged into it had nothing affected whatsoever. So they're very confident in their ability to stop surges, and it's been proven for me time and time and again. This particular unit is recommended for our type of system. So 600 VA, I looked up on Amazon and you can get it for about $65. There are other sizes and there are other manufacturers in the same range. So this is probably a lower size unit. It's not nearly the biggest you can get, but a 600 VA unit, it has 5 UPS and surge outlets, and then it has two outlets that are surge only. So you could plug in 7 devices and still have your surge protection. 5 of those will have a battery backup. And then there is a USB charging port. So what you could do with this is charge the iPad with the USB port and then plug in the printer and the PAX unit to the UPS surge units, and you'll be having that then will protect that entire system, that entire terminal. If you're going to plug this in for the office, you're going to plug in the router and the cable modem or whatever internet modem they have, those 2 devices, into this unit. We recommend that you don't plug anything else into it, even though it's very tempting. But the more units you plug into it, the less overall time you have when the battery or when the electricity goes out. And I'll show you that in a minute. Let's take, for example, an Epson TMT88 thermal printer. When it is printing, now, of course, when it's just sitting there idle, it's taking almost no power at all. It's just got a little green LED that's lit. So there's no really power usage. But when it's printing, it is using 1.6 amps to print a thermal receipt. And that's probably a 3 to 5 second burst. That's all it is. It has a burst of power usage, and then it goes back to the idle stage. You look at this, then you can have up to 15 minutes of continuous printing using this UPS. That then, if you break that into 3 to 5 second burst, then that means that you will have 180 receipts that can come out of that printer. So how long does this UPS last? Well, I'm trying to put it into perspective. It's going to be 180 receipts. Now, how long does it take for that restaurant to print 180 receipts? That could be hours. It could be days, but the system will continue to run for 180 bursts of printing at 5 seconds each. If you were to have 2 printers, that literally cuts it in half. So you're now down to 90 receipts out of this one printer, out of this one UPS. So pick your choices wisely. If you plug in 3 or 4 printers to this one device, each one of those is going to divide it again and again and again. Generally, I put in 1 UPS for 1 printer, 1 UPS per kitchen display, 1 UPS for the terminals, and 1 UPS in the back for the router and modem. So at the point of sale, if you used a PAX S300 in addition to the thermal printer, you're going to run about 120 receipts. Again, how long does that last? That depends on the restaurant. It could be hours or it could be days, but it's certainly long enough for the restaurant to be able to clear out the patrons who are currently there. Without power in the restaurant, they don't have fans, they don't have heating lamps, they don't have any power in the kitchen, which probably doesn't have a window. All that taken into account means that they're probably not going to be preparing much food. They just need enough power to systematically get their customers processed and out the door. Using these UPSs is going to avoid the problem of loss of internet because of internal to the restaurant problems. If they want something even better than a UPS, then they need to go solar. This is a system that I have on my house because of the hurricanes that we go through here. Last hurricane that came through, literally the eye of the storm passed over my house. We were without power for 5 days. So I have a UPS that is powered by solar panels. These panels I have are 200 watts each, and I have 2 of them. So this unit is about 1,000 watt, and with a wiring connector, I'm able to connect this unit to my house electricity that then will power my freezer, my refrigerator, and two other circuits. I have one circuit for my living room, which is where my television, my modem, and my fan is, and then the bedroom for, again, the lights and the fan. I can power all of that with this one unit and those two solar panels. And yeah, the power does drain overnight, but during the day, the next day, it's not only powering these devices, it's regenerating the electricity that was uh, depreciated or deleted from the night before. So if they want something that will run indefinitely, then solar is the way to go. So let's control what you can control. Kind of a summary. Aldelo has passed our external security exams. We've passed them in flying colors and always have. You need to lock the iPad so the employees can't go play and surf the web and do other things they're not supposed to. Then put a UPS battery backup on every device. That's what we're recommending. That is because you should supply a complete system. Sometimes the restaurant owner doesn't know what's best for him, and you're supposed to be the expert. So let's do the right thing and give them a complete system. So let's now talk about some disaster recovery. That is something that happens outside the restaurant. The internet goes down because of an ISP problem, something that's outside the control of the restaurant owner and you as the POS provider. What you do there is within the restaurant, orders are still entered. The iPads continue to work. Printers still print. Kitchen displays, they still display all the orders. The customer displays work. Cash drawers still open. So the entire point of sale system still continues to operate with only minor differences. One of those is the cloud database is not updated. It takes the internet to update the cloud database. And then credit card processing is affected. So what do you do about it? We have a solution. The solution is a cell modem or a hotspot. A cell modem is a physical device, a little bit bigger than a hockey puck, smaller than a normal modem, but it is a physical device that you can purchase for as little as $3 a month, and then have a cell chip inserted into it so that that then acts like a cell phone if the internet goes down. A hotspot is something that's simply put on the phone. It's an add-on to a lot of different um, packages, cell packages, and that's what we're going to discover here. And we're going to look at those. So various carriers, they all have options. So you have to look at the different carriers to then see what their options are for hotspot and actually cell modems. You need to get with the ones that work best in your market. Every market has some differences. Some carriers are stronger, have stronger signals, have better towers, and that's going to depend on your market area. But get with the one that has the best coverages for your market and have that as something in your back pocket that you can pull out. You'll find that cell modems are not as popular as they once were because hotspots are becoming the dominant solution. People carry that hotspot on their cell phone and just carry it with them wherever they go. That's why when I buy an iPad, I do not buy the cell enabled iPad because I've got my iPhone right there with me, and my iPhone has the hotspot. So I'm able to run my iPads, plural, off of one hotspot. And it's simply a matter of getting the drop down and selecting the hotspot on my phone. So what we've discovered is in our market, AT&T gets you a hotspot with 30 gigs of data per month for $50. Being very competitive, Verizon does the same thing for $45. Then we looked at T-Mobile. They have a 6 gig package for $25. A provider called Cricket has 3 gigs for 25, and then Mint has unlimited for 30. Now you're obviously your eye is going to go to that lower price, 3 gigabytes for Cricket or T-Mobile. Well, maybe they don't have the good coverage you need. Maybe they don't have a strong enough signal. You want something that's reliable. You certainly don't need a lot of data. The packages that we're sending, the packets that we're sending across are tiny. They're small. They don't take up a lot of data. So you could literally run an entire point of sale system or an Aldelo Express system that is everything. Cell coverage would be all you need for uh, cloud updates, internet processing, batching, the whole thing. So you could run an entire system off of this solution and just pick the best provider with the best signal. But our data packages are tiny. They're not big at all. So let's look at setting up a hotspot. We're going to take a look at both carriers for like Google and Android, and then against the Apple system. So let's look at how to set up a hotspot. The first thing you're going to have to do is confirm that your phone plan actually has the ability to do so. Not all phone plans have hotspot capabilities. So you have to make sure first that that's possible, that is even possible. If it is, both Android and Apple have 3 different versions. You can do a hotspot with Wi-Fi, you can do it with Bluetooth, and you can do it with a USB cable. Both providers have these 3 options. What we focus on are the Wi-Fi and USB connections and not Bluetooth. So for Android, you first go to settings, then you go to connections, mobile hotspot and tethering, and you'll see the arrows showing you on the screen where you should go. Then you turn on the mobile hotspot, then touch data usage, and there you turn data saver off, and then mobile hotspot and tethering is turned on. If you're going to connect via USB cable, you literally take the cable that you use for charging and you plug it into the back of the router. That's it. That if it has it should have a USB. Mine does, and just plug it into the USB port on the back of the router, and then the unit is now hotspot enabled to the phone. Couldn't get much easier, or at least you think it couldn't. And then we'll look at Apple. For the Apple situation, you go to settings, you touch personal hotspot, you turn on the personal hotspot, and then you click allow others to join. And if you wish, put in a Wi-Fi password. And that's it. That's all you have to do to turn on the hotspot. If you want to do a USB connection, you take the same USB cable that came with the phone that you do for charging. You just plug it into the modem, and there you go. You do have an option here with Apple that I didn't see with Android, and it is disable unless needed. And that means to me that you could plug this in, keep it plugged in, and it will be on the normal internet unless you have internet that goes down, and then the USB connected Apple device will take over. So there's really no loss in time or internet processing. So let's look at what we are recommending as a minimum configuration for disaster avoidance. You're going to have the router and the modem, and you're going to connect it to a uninterrupted power supply. That's the minimum. That will at least, I started to say eliminate, but that will drastically reduce any issues you have with power outages going out. It flickers, that will eliminate. The only thing you won't be able to control are what happens outside the building with the ISP. A better configuration is then taking the UPS and connecting it to the point of sale devices. That is the printer, the terminal, and the PAX device. That gets you a better situation. You're able to then process the orders at the terminal to get customers paid and out the door. The best configuration is taking now and connecting your remote printing devices. Now, if the restaurant wants to be able to process orders totally like normal, then this is the configuration. You're going to put a UPS on every printer, kitchen display, customer display, all those devices. But remember, the restaurant is probably going to be closed because they don't have enough power to run the ovens, the fans, the heating lamps, all those things. The ultimate configuration is then to have a hotspot connected to the back office equipment so that we're never ever down for loss of internet. So, what questions do you guys have?